Hello, my name is Quentin Carton here at ServiceNow. I was experimenting with the use case that leverage Docintel, Flow Designer, IntegrationHub, RPA, and our new Gen AI controller to leverage Azure OpenAI. So the use case, it's a fictitious use case that I was trying to find a use case for which technology can help. And I was thinking of using ServiceNow to pull scientific data, official publication, research from scientists like Joshua Benjo. Imagine you're working on a specific science project and you need to read the scientific literature. You have to grab data from many different websites, articles, and it's specifically in that space. It's a lot of reading. So I was like, maybe we could use OpenAI to kind of summarize some of the literature that we have on certain topic. So here I'm just showing this website that basically exposes some of the articles and reviews and publication from well-known scientists like Joshua or name like Yann LeCun and others. They're basically godfathers of AI. So let's say here I want to automate that piece, like searching for all the news or articles or publication from Joshua Benjo. I have to go search on the website and maybe search for specific keyword. I need to go click on pick the latest article. Kind of even the abstract, it's kind of hard to understand and read. So there's a lot of data. Look at the introduction, like 15 different pages. So you can download it and put it somewhere. So my use case would be basically automating the data collection, grabbing those PDF files. Here's the article as a PDF format. So there's a lot of reading. And try to use technology to compile or to maybe summarize what's in those files, and maybe use Docintel to grab meaningful data from those documents. And so basically what I've tried to build is some kind of a library of publication from certain scientists, and using ServiceNow to orchestrate that. And there's a few benefits of doing this. Those publications, sometimes they disappear, like they're published on the website and 2 years later they are not there anymore. So maybe some client may need to have that library of documents available at all the time, and also have a better way to search for them and better way to quickly understand what those publications are all about. So without further ado, let's see how I've built my my little app or my little use case. So I'm gonna, first of all, start with requesting, starting the process. Here, technically, we could think about having a scheduled workflow that's gonna every day, maybe during the night, use RPA to connect to certain website and find the latest publication from those scientists. Here, I'm just triggering my process like this. I can select for example, I can select the scientist. Yann LeCun is the godfather of AI. He's the head of AI at Meta, Facebook. And Joshua is founder, co-creator of Element AI that we acquired a while ago. And is basically also the godfather and close friend with Yann. So here I can select the scientist, and that's my trigger for the process. By doing this is creating a publication record. And if I go on my instance in my publication table, it's a data model I created to support that use case. So you can see I have a bunch of publication. The goal is to automate the process of attaching the PDF in the record, summarizing the 15 pages from that publication, extract meaningful data, because it's important in that space to understand when the publication was accepted, published, and reviewed, etc. and grab from the document who are the publisher, who are the scientists who created this article. The idea is to have a library of all those publications available at all the time, and also making it available in a central place instead of having to go in those different websites. And again, that's a fictitious use case just to showcase the technology. So I didn't put so much work in the interface there. So normally the workflow, the robot will execute the process manually. In my case, I'm just gonna trigger the robot by hand. The process will be unattended and triggered by a workflow. In my case, I'm just gonna execute it directly from that machine. So I'm gonna close all the browser. I'm gonna make sure I'm connected. So that the robot, the design studio where I built that, just gonna make sure it's connected, making sure I don't have timeout, yeah. So when I click run, the robot is gonna follow the process. So there's different steps. It's gonna pick a work item in the RPA queue. Basically the work item contains the sysID of the new publication record in my data model and contain the name of the scientist for which we need to grab the latest articles or publication. And then I'm doing some data transformation to grab the right URL from the HTML page for those articles, and I'm basically grabbing those hyperlinks so I can go in the next step and download the file. So if I go there, I'm downloading the file. I'm opening a new Chrome session and downloading the file and moving the file to that C drive publication folder. Once I'm done downloading the file, I upload the file to the record on ServiceNow, to that publication record that I have in my data model. And the next step is I extract the text from that PDF. I'm using the PDF connector that we have. I'm counting the number of pages, and I'm saying, hey, get the text from all those pages. I could ignore some pages if I didn't want to take all the pages. And at the end, I close the page. So what do I do next? If I keep going, send the text to Azure OpenAI. So basically, I'm sending the whole raw data from the PDF. I'm sending this to Azure OpenAI. I'm using our generative AI controller that is configured in my instance to connect with the Azure OpenAI via the specific box that comes with the controller. And all that does is summarizing the whole 15 pages to a little tiny block of text. So I can put this in my library of articles in ServiceNow. It's easier to search, easier to quickly read what this article is all about. And then the last step is clean up and release. But by doing this trigger a condition in Flow Designer to ask Docintel to extract some metadata from the document as well, like the published date, when it was reviewed and approved to be published. Some of those information that are on all of those publication. So let's execute it and look at the behind the scenes. So if I click run, it should pick up a work item in the queue and start to execute the process. So see, it's opening the page, searching for all the article from Jan LeCun. And underneath the cover, my robot is reading this hyperlink, closing, grabbing the link for the specific article, click on the download PDF. You can see at the bottom left corner, the PDF file was downloaded. And actually, I'm gonna take control of the screen just to show you the file was just created there. And the file is gonna disappear as soon as I extract the text and submit to OpenAI the text from the file. As part of my process, I'm deleting the file. So if I go open it again, the file is deleted. So at this point, I know I've sent a request via workflow to have OpenAI to summarize the text, and also Docintel should be also triggered to extract some information, from the PDF. So, and let's go back on my instance and look at my publication list. I'm gonna open this one. Okay, so this one was just modified a minute ago. And you can see there's the attachment that corresponds to the article we downloaded, and we already have the summarization from Azure OpenAI. So that was driven by a workflow. And now, as part of my workflow, when I'm done with the summarization, I'm marking the ready to process. This is just to let Docintel know that now you can use the file to to extract the data. So I'm gonna go in Docintel. And dive into my specific use case to manage those publication. Process, publish papers. So I'm diving, double clicking into my specific use case in Docintel. So you have some field that I'm trying to extract data from. For some document, I may not be able to fully extract automatically the data. I've trained only 5 times with 5 documents the system. So depending on the publication, I may have to review some of the field, and I believe that's the case in this one. So I can see the different tasks that was requested directly from the workflow. You can see here, there's my image, the name of my publication record. I want to double check and make sure in the backend that if I go in the backend, check if machine learning is still doing its thing. See, this is I'm showing you what's under the cover. You can see the system is still training the solution. So I'm gonna refresh until it's 100%. It's not something you need to look at. Docintel is just doing thing. Okay, almost done. Prediction workflow. So hopefully should be able to predict some of the. All right, as you can see, the training, the Docintel prediction workflow has been executed. If I go back to the use case, I can see my publication record there, and I can open it in Docintel. So I could configure a rule to say, hey, if we have not extracted automatically the data, if we need the human in the loop, we can send a notification to someone to basically try to validate the data extracted or put the data that was not extracted automatically. I didn't configure the straight-through processing because I'm just early stage in my experimenting there. I only trained with 3 or 4 documents. So I'm waiting until the prediction score are a bit higher before I can activate the straight-through processing. But here, if I click on the title, I configure the system, so actually it's showing me the potential correct value. So here he was able to find the title, the accepted date. So he's getting this from the bottom of the page because I've trained the system with the 3 documents, so he knows where to find the accepted date, the received date. He got it correctly. And he didn't get the published date, so I'm just going to type it. I'm going to type it because he was not able to find this on this document. And remember, all articles may be formatted in a different way, but they all have to have those kind of metadata for my use case. So usually it's pretty good. See, even the source URL was able to find it. I'm going to validate that the correct source URL. And also the list of scientists, because that's something I want to put in my library, and it looks pretty good to me. So yeah, Docintel was able to extract pretty much all of it except that published date. Normally this, if I train more, I should be able to get to very close to 100%. And then I don't even have to review. Yeah, I'm just review because I'm early stage in the process of training Docintel. So when I'm submitting this is triggering a workflow that taking those extracted values and putting them in my table, in my data model. So if I go there, close this thing, I go back to my publication table. See that the one I'm working with, the 1020. Now that you can see the title is there, so Docintel was able to extract those values, all those values, and I put a comment just for the demo purpose, extracted by Docintel, so we know where the data is coming from, and even the publisher. So now I have my nice inventory of publication. I have access to the source, and I have a summary that was processed directly by OpenAI using our GenAI controller. So that's pretty good to me. And see, this document has 15 pages, so it's kind of pretty cool to be able to leverage Gen controller to summarize those type of document. I'm just gonna close those tab and close this tab too. Go back to my screen. So now let's see how I've orchestrated everything. There's obviously a workflow. So here it's a no-code workflow. I mean, it's flow designer at the end of the day who's orchestrating end-to-end that process. A simple trigger when when a publication record is created in my table. When I specify for which scientist I want to grab the newly created published article on this website, and that's my trigger there. And then once a new record is created, basically I'm picking the publication number, specific unique number that ServiceNow is giving me, and I'm adding the scientist name and sysid of that record to the RPA work queue item. And now RPA knows he has something in the queue to process. He's gonna go and grab the latest article for that scientist, and the whole process starts. I want to show you the summarization step. One of the steps here, it's a subflow that, if you remember, I'm calling that summarize publication flow from RPA directly. So I'm gonna go back to my RPA screen. If I go in my end-to-end RPA here, I'm doing a send text to process in Azure OpenAI. So that's that workflow that I'm calling directly from RPA. So now it takes the raw text that I extracted with the PDF connector of RPA and the sysid of the record on which I want to store the data and the summary. And here I'm calling the generative AI step, summarize. This is coming from the Gen AI controller that support OpenAI or Azure or OpenAI implementation. And I'm just passing the raw text to it. And then updating this particular field, and that field with the summary provided by Azure. So this is a summary that OpenAI has generated for me. If I go back to the flow, we can see the execution data. And you can see the summarize step. So basically you can see that I've passed at some point from RPA the raw text. We don't see in the UI, we don't show the whole raw text, but the variable content, the whole 15 pages from the PDF. And then the response is a summary. And that the rest of the flow is me passing the response into the field. Yep. So that's pretty much it. So we saw RPA performing the extraction from the website, downloading the file, calling a workflow to get Azure OpenAI to summarize. And we saw also that I have Docintel that I use to extract some data, and also how with a human in the loop, you can review some of the data extraction, like reviewing maybe the published date, or things we were not able to automatically get from the document. The result is now I can have the workflow that is scheduled every night, go grab all those articles, publish papers from those scientists that I like very much, and have a central place to go and read. I even put the source URL so I can, I know it's trusted information with the source, and I have a nice summary. I don't need to read all those pages, but at least I'm aware that Jan LeCun has been working with this team of publishers and scientists on that particular research, for example. All right, I hope this is helpful. This is just a kind of a fictitious use case, but it shows how you could leverage all the automation engine capabilities plus generative AI controller as well.